This is the next episode of the Real Hiring Playbook. If you have not already been here, so far we've covered phase one, which is all about understanding the hiring game. So we covered how hiring decisions really get made, career versus hiring manager psychology, what internal conversations actually mean, and why time and visibility matter. If you haven't yet seen that video, just go on my channel and previous videos. Today we're going to move on to phase two, which is all about targeting and positioning yourself. So this is going to range from choosing the right roles and companies, getting your 30-second career story correct, and explaining career changes and gaps confidently. And we're going to focus on these three today. And this one especially, I really wanted to touch on just because I recently had a client. He wasn't really getting any interviews or any traction, and mainly because he had a really big 2 year career gap. What we did is we fixed up that career gap and we were able to translate that career gap efficiently. And he was able to get an interview in his very next application. Put the message on screen for you now. And yeah, so this is going to be very valuable for you. So moving on to the next page. So most people think their job search problem is their CV, their interview skills, and their confidence. These three are very important and it actually might be part of your problem. But an even bigger potential problem is if you're not positioned correctly. So if you're not positioned correctly, what will happen is that even if you have an amazing CV, an amazing interview, you're very confident, you're very conversational, you know how to kind of conduct yourself, a lot of the times you might still fall flat. So what can happen is you might be good enough to get into interview stages and maybe even final stage interviews. But if you're not positioned correctly, everything else will kind of fall flat and you might become someone where maybe you can get interviews, maybe you get a lot of final stage interviews and you keep on falling at the final hurdle. It might not actually be your interview and your confidence. It might actually be more of a case that the foundation was never perfect in the first place. So you were always kind of swimming upstream and fighting an uphill battle. So I'm gonna fix that for you today. So part one is all about choosing the right roles and companies. So not every role that you can do is something that you should apply for. And when you're doing your applications, you always want to optimize for roles where you are a really perfect fit. So this is essentially roles that you have done directly and don't necessarily think about the job title, think about the problems you're going to be solving. So if you've solved an exact problem for that, then those are the roles that you should be prioritizing first. And then I would say only apply for these roles, the ones that you could do, but you're not a perfect fit for. Once all the perfect fit roles, you've kind of run out of them. You've applied for all the perfect fit roles on the market. So yeah, just prioritize the perfect fit roles. So basically, when a hiring manager looks at your CV, you want them to think, yeah, this is the perfect guy for this particular problem. Not not he might be able to or she might be able to solve this. It's this is the person. So yeah. So how to filter these roles? So good roles are three signals. So these are going to be subjective. So good roles for you. So this is going to be you've solved, as I've said before, you've solved similar problems. The language in the job description feels familiar, so there's no unfamiliar jargon. It's all things that you've dealt with on a day to day, and you don't need to kind of stretch your story to fit. It's not like having to reach for the stars when you're kind of trying to explain your career narrative and why you are fit for that company. It's just a direct fit. This isn't always going to be possible, but it's just about prioritizing the roles first, where you are a direct fit, and then you can worry about applying for maybe less direct fits afterwards. And that's going to make your life so much easier. So bad roles usually require a lot of explanation. So if you find yourself thinking, as I said, I could do this, but I need to explain why, then that's a warning sign. And just a little bit of personal experience. So I was working with a client, and initially we were getting quite a lot of interviews and traction. But the problem is, it wouldn't really go anywhere. It might be a first stage interview or second stage interview, but it wouldn't really go anywhere just because he wasn't a direct fit. It was kind of a thing where it's like we were trying to mold him to things where he wasn't a perfect fit. As soon as we just started focusing on what he is a direct fit for, overnight the results were a lot better, and then he got an offer. So you can see how important this is. You have to get this positioning correct. And also, so if you want to work with me one to one, then yeah, I think that there's something. Just click the link in my bio. But yeah, hiring is pattern matching. And so the closer you look to someone that they've hired before, the safer you feel to them. And choosing the right companies. This is probably even more important than choosing the right roles. So the reason I say that is because I've actually seen a lot of times with candidates where they weren't actually perfect fits based on the job title, but because they had done so much work in the same industry or at least industry adjacent, they were still able to get interviews and opportunities because a lot of the times companies might struggle to find candidates that actually have real industry experience. So a lot of the times, if you can find the right companies that are a perfect match for your experience, this is going to be a competitive edge kind of scenario. So good signals are basically, if you see companies who are growing or changing direction, and managers who change careers themselves, teams with mixed backgrounds, and these are all good. I think this is more kind of general things, but for you personally, I would say if you can find companies that, as I said, are just a direct industry match, then you're gonna have much better chance. And I would say as well, I always recommend networking and outreach, but what I've seen is very effective is if you are an industry match, I would literally just go and focus on networking as well. And then when you're sending your messages, lead with the fact that you are an industry match because that's going to catch their attention more than you believe. So yeah, um, okay. So basically, yeah, we're looking for familiarity, not possibility. And hiring managers choose what feels safe, which is what I've kind of echoed in previous videos. But basically, when you're trying to look at this, I want you to think hiring managers are going to basically want to hire the person who's most likely to be a 7 out of 10, not necessarily the person who has the potential to be a 9 out of 10. They want kind of the person who's guaranteed to be a 7 out of 10 at least. That's what they're optimizing for. They're trying to negate risk as much as possible when they're going for hires. So this is how you're just negating your risk. So your 30-second career story, very important. So basically you want so when you're doing your interviews, you want whoever's interviewing you to basically be able to pigeonhole you almost immediately. And so your 30-second, and this is what I'm trying to get my clients to actually master, because I think this is a very important skill that no one's ever going to tell you apart from me. I think I'm being arrogant. But basically, your 30-second story answers that. And it's not about your full timeline. It's not your LinkedIn summary. It's not your defense. It's just optimal clarity. And the reason why I think 30-second stories are very important is because if you consistently describe your past experience in a way that's relevant for the company that you're applying for, you're weaving in all of your metrics, you're getting in the business impact, and you're doing that all within a 30-second structure, that answers a lot of things for that company. So first of all, it kind of demonstrates to them that you understand their business impact, their business needs, and you have solved their problems. But even if you were to kind of go a layer deeper, I would even say that you're showing that you have communication skills as well, which is very important as of 2026. So if you're someone that's able to um, effectively and succinctly communicate your career story inside 30 seconds, you have to have good communication skills. So very important you know this. And another thing, I'm rambling a little bit, but just another thing as well is if you can know this 30-second career story, you're going to find that your interview to offer rates are going to increase almost overnight. And the reason that is because a lot of the times, yeah, when we're failing in final stage interviews, it's not actually because of how we performed in that interview. I promise you. So what's happening is because we weren't positioned optimally throughout the interview process, we kind of ended up being the backup option. So we were kind of we you kind of limp into a final stage interview thinking, oh yeah, you're really close. But really and truly, you're the backup option to the person that has that 30-second career story and they have that really optimal positioning. So that's why I don't want you to be. I don't want you guys to go into final stage interviews being the backup option because you're just going to get a lot of heartache. I've been there myself. My clients were there as well. So just make sure you nail this. This might be the most important part of the video, and no one takes this seriously. Which is why if you take this seriously, you're gonna. I promise you're gonna dominate. Get this 30-second career story, and if you sometimes you might have to tailor it a little bit depending on the company that you're interviewing for. But if you get this right, oh my god, you're gonna be cooking. So then the simple structure, your story should answer three things: what you've been doing recently, what problem you specialize in, and why this role makes sense now. Again, if you know these three, you're cooking. and then that's it. And then yeah, another thing as well, because I actually watch I watch clients interview recordings, and one thing I noticed is that maybe it's the pressure, but a lot of the times people will ramble and they will over elaborate, and you probably think you're doing yourself a favor, but you're not, because all that, it makes you sound unsure of yourself, and it makes it sound like you're trying to overcompensate or hide something. All you have to do is answer the question and keep your mouth shut. If they want more detail, they'll ask, but a lot of the times less is more. And when you kind of talk too much, it's like you just sound unsure, and it's like you're just digging yourself a hole you don't need to. And as I said, the goal is easy to make yourself easy to understand so that they can explain you internally. So think about the person who's interviewing you. Think like, if you do this correctly, they're basically going to be your biggest advocate. So make sure it's easy for them to advocate for you. So explaining career changes and gaps confidently. So as I said in the intro, so I had a client recently. He was struggling with a career gap. What we did is we translated that. So what we did is, so he was trying to work in project delivery, and then in the last 2 years he was doing music production. So what we did is we kind of took all of the project delivery aspects in his music production experience, and we just emphasized that in his recent experience. So if you was to look at his CV, it doesn't even look like he had a career gap. And the funny thing is that we didn't tell one lie. It was All we did, we just reframed it. So I'd say with career gaps, if you can translate it the way we did, I would say do that. But then if you can't, explaining your career gap confidently and honestly is the best kind of alternative. So career changes and gaps they're not red flags, unclear explanations are. So what will happen is a lot of you might see on the internet that, oh, I've got this career gap, that means I'm employable. And then because you think that, it's like becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where you become really kind of negative, unconfident, and then that manifests in unclear explanations. And then that's what makes you kind of unemployable, because you're unconfident and unsure of yourself. So as I said, the mistake people make is over explaining. They apologize, they justify, they sound defensive, and that's what actually creates the doubt. So basically, the rule, don't justify it. A calm explanation will signal confidence, and defensive explanations will signal risk. So this matters because when someone hears your story, they're going to be asking things. Can I picture this person on their team? Can I explain the path to others? Does this feel stable? And that's why it's very important to make this succinct and clear to them, because you're making their job so much easier because they can explain you in that 30-second career story. Jessica is a perfect fit because she's worked on direct to consumer marketing campaigns, and she made 30 million in ad revenue. Etc. Make it very clear so that they can just relay that to their colleagues, and you're gonna go so much further. And you're gonna find that the final stage interviews are converting to offers a lot more often. And then, yeah, the core principle, just finishing off there. So hiring managers, they don't need perfect careers; they need clarity. Listen, if you're gonna watch this channel, I'm just gonna keep on battering you with this word clarity, because it honestly is the reason why most people are just not getting the results they want. You just need to be super, 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 super clear. If the more clarity you have, the more joy and success you're gonna get in this process. And your job is to make your path easy to understand, easy to explain, and easy to defend internally. And then when you do that, interviews get easier, networking gets easier, and offers become way, way more likely. So yeah, so that's me. I'm just gonna wrap up this video now. And as I said, if you want interviews in 4 weeks, guaranteed, just click the link inside my bio, or you can DM me on Instagram. And then yeah, I'm gonna catch you in the next video. Thank you guys.